At our peril, we ignore the advice given to us by Jefferson and Washington when they warned us about getting involved in entangling relations around the world. We are giving billions away in foreign aid to governments that are involved in conflicts. And when we do this, it involves us in their conflicts.
President Washington said, "We can trust to temporary alliances in times of necessity." Between 1778, when we had our alliance with France, which lapsed in 1800, and 1949, the United States never entered an alliance with any other country. Then we established NATO as a defensive alliance against the Soviet Empire, and we drew a red line across Germany. That was a temporary necessity in the Cold War. When the Cold War ended, the United States should have reviewed all of its treaty commitments to Japan and Korea and Taiwan and Europe and all over the world, and abrogated or dissolved all the alliances that no longer serve the vital national interest of the United States.
The Constitution doesn't give the federal government the right to form any alliances like that, where we give our sovereignty to these sort of supernatural national bodies. You know, now I basically say that there is no point for it. It's basically to expend our interventionism and to protect our empire.
Because of the conflicts we have now become entangled in, we have over 800 military bases and outposts stationed in over 130 countries around the world. To maintain this infrastructure, we have to spend almost $500 billion a year. Some say $1 trillion a year when you factor in debt service and long-term medical care for veterans.
We are facing imperial overstretch. That's what happened to the British Empire, and 10 years of war showed that the British Empire was overstretched, and it collapsed totally after World War II. The United States should simply shed these commitments to fight all over the world on behalf of nations which have nothing to do with the vital interest of the United States.
In an attempt to optimize the world stage for capitalism in the name of spreading democracy,
if America doesn't stand up for the cause of freedom, who will, Carl?
We have, over the past 50 years, resorted to both overt and covert operations.
The Bush Doctrine is open-ended. It is, we cannot be secure unless the world is democratic, and we have a right to interfere in the internal affairs of every country on earth to make them democratic. It is an absurdity. We are undertaking an assignment we cannot fulfill. It is endless. It is a formula for perpetual war, for perpetual peace.
It is clear, by failing to follow the original intent of the Constitution, we, the people, have allowed the rogue politicians that now infest Congress, the Supreme Court, and the executive to involve us in endless wars, hence endless debt. We spend endless amounts of money into the military-industrial complex, which Eisenhower warned us about. Yet all we seem to get in return is perpetual war.
The very wise and wealthy financiers of the world, going way back, even before Rothschild's time, have observed that the world was a pretty rotten place to live in, that nations were always fighting over something or other. Somebody was always trying to conquer somebody else, and wars were universal. Too bad about that, but that's the way it is. So we found out, that we bankers, that if we loan money to them, that we get paid back. They don't question what the interest rate is because they're fighting a war. And if they can win the war, they can just plunder the victim and pay us whatever we want out of the plunder. It doesn't cost them anything, really. Then the issue comes up, well, what happens if one of these nations decides not to pay us? The answer is very simple. If they refuse to pay us back, we'll finance an opposing nation or a revolutionary group somewhere else to become an enemy of that nation and attack it and destroy it, invade it. We'll create another war, in other words, in order to get our money back. We'll finance this side to attack that side. And so by financing all sides in a war and keeping the world divided up into warring factions so that no one unit is particularly stronger than the other, the banks can continue to finance all sides of wars forever and always collect their interest, because they have the ability of putting one nation against another nation to collect their debts.
The military and banking beasts we have allowed to flourish and prosper are eating up money we could be placing towards rejuvenating the school system, the healthcare system, maintaining bridges, roads, and levees, developing fusion, solar, and ethanol energy technologies, allowing savings and capital formation to reduce the cost of products, and providing better-paying jobs for the middle class. Many of our actions and foreign policies have been beneficial and delivered in a good American spirit. However, we have also allowed our government to do some nasty and selfish things, as John Baker explains in his article, Blowback: The Cost and Consequences of American Foreign Policy.
Blowback is a term whereby you take an action abroad, such as we overthrew the Mossadegh in 1953 in Iran, and blowback came when the Shah we installed was overthrown in 1979 by nationalistic forces, and we got a worse situation than we had.
We have in the past supported questionable rulers that have turned against us, such as Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden. The IMF World Bank, which is heavily funded by fiat money created by the U.S. Federal Reserve System, lends money to subprime borrowers in third world nations. And then, when they inevitably default on their loans, the U.S., through corporate agents, forces concessions known as structured settlements on such countries. Concessions include granting the U.S. sweetheart deals on natural resources, such as oil, profit participation in their public utilities, certain voting patterns at the UN, land for yet more U.S. military bases, and free access to canals, such as the Panama Canal. When countries don't play ball with the U.S. empire, the empire strikes back. We send in the military, as was the case with Iraq.
I do believe that Iraq is the greatest strategic blunder, certainly in my lifetime, because we attacked and invaded a country that did not threaten us, did not want war with us, and did not have the weapons of mass destruction we said it had. It was an utterly unnecessary war. It has cost 4,000 American dead, 33,000 wounded, $600–700 billion on the way to trillions of dollars. It has antagonized and alienated the entire Arab and Islamic world. I think it has helped to break the Bush presidency, and I can't think of any gain worthwhile that we have gotten as a consequence of this war. This war could be the beginning of the end of the United States as a superpower and as the lone superpower on earth.
I have to say that most wars in our modern age, in my view, are unjust because they're being fought over reasons which are not honestly stated. They're being fought over hidden agendas. But we must keep in mind that there is a theoretical basis for a just defensive war. And in a defensive war, if somebody's trying to attack us and take over our country, truly do, not something that our political leaders have created this myth about, but really is truly happening, then we would gain by winning that war. Because if we didn't win it, we would lose our freedom.
The mere fact that we are involved in so many unethical and entangling relationships the world over makes it inevitable that we will cause severe antagonism and perpetual war. Such antagonism has precipitated blowback in the form of attacks on our embassies, ships, and buildings. September 11, 2001 was the most dramatic example.
9/11 was indeed blowback for massive American intervention in the Middle East, supporting Saudi Arabia, putting our troops in there, the Iraq War, and aiding the overthrow of the Afghans. In effect, it came back to bite us. The 9/11 terrorists were over here because we are over there.
By projecting our military to secure oil in Iraq and Saudi Arabia, rather than securing the blessings of liberty, we are causing conflict that is destroying domestic tranquility. Oh, it's easy to blame it all on the Democrats or the Republicans or even the Islamic radicals. But as Harry Truman said, the buck stops here. The buck stops with we the people and how well we self-govern pursuant to the U.S. Constitution. In short, by allowing our elected officials to receive campaign contributions from corporate entities, all non-people, we are causing all these bad things to happen because such elected officials cannot possibly be true to both the U.S. Constitution and the fascist agenda of globalization. Governments, including our own, will always seek excuses to expand, and war is one of the primary tools a government uses to expand its power.
World War I, did that provide a net gain? It destroyed one of the most stable international structures the world had seen throughout history. It brought about the Bolshevik Revolution, it brought about the Nazi Revolution, it brought about World War Depression, it brought about World War II. We'd say certainly it was not a net gain that came out of World War I. It's hard to see the net gain really that came out of World War II. Hitler was defeated and you ended up with Stalin with more power than Hitler ever had. The Japanese were defeated, you end up with Mao Zedong in control of China.
War is the health of the state, according to author Randolph Bourne. It's up to we the people to maintain our health by keeping our government under good control. We the people ordained and established the Constitution of the United States of America in order to ensure domestic tranquility, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity.
The United States is the greatest nation on earth. We have coexisted with monarchies, with despotisms, with dictatorships. We have been the most secure nation on earth, and we maintain our security by maintaining strong, powerful military forces to defend and protect us, and the will to fight in our vital national interests, and letting the world know that, and staying out of wars that are none of our business. That's how we survived in the 20th century as the one great power to enter the 20th century that left it still a great power. What happened to the British Empire, the French Empire, the Russian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Hohenzollern Empire, all the rest of them, the Japanese Empire, all smashed, all destroyed, because they were overextended and they got into wars that carried them too far and were none of their business. That is where we're headed right now with these wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and plotting war on Iran and all the rest. It is not essential to our vital security, and we ought not to be doing it.
The only way this can be done is for we the people to read and understand the U.S. Constitution, as well as the underlying philosophy behind it, and insist that the people we vote into office apply it to the letter, not just give it lip service. Anyone who doesn't believe this has no right to call themselves an American citizen or a representative of we the people.